This episode of The Edge is brought to you by Audible.com, offering more than 180,000 titles for smartphone, tablet, and desktop. To get a free audiobook of your choice and help Trek.fm at the same time, visit audibletrial.com/trekfm. And also by Enterprise in Space, an international program of the nonprofit National Space Society. Find out how you can help science and education and become a virtual crew member aboard the NSS Enterprise Orbiter by visiting enterpriseinspace.org. And if you want to join the conversation and share your thoughts on this episode, join the Babel Conference, our listeners group on Facebook. Just type BABEL into the Facebook search field. We look forward to seeing you there.
You're listening to Trek FM.
What have you done out there on the edge of Federation space?
Welcome to The Edge, Trek FM's dedicated Star Trek Discovery podcast. I'm your host, Brandon-Shea Mutala, and joining me today is the one, the only, Justin Oser. How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing great. Thanks for the intro.
Yeah.
Well, I believe you're the one and only Brandon-Shea Mutala too, right?
Yeah, because my mirror version, I went over there and killed him. I couldn't handle there being more than one of me. See, that's my alternative reference. My alternative factor.
Well, then you're going to need to go to every alternative universe and kill all of them too.
Ain't nobody got time for that. Anyways, we're here to talk about the season finale of Star Trek Discovery's first season, Will You Take My Hand, featuring the wonderful wedding that everybody predicted between Culber. Oh, no, wait, that didn't happen. Featuring a whole bunch of other stuff. Yes, no weddings in this episode. But before we jump into the episode, that I think we have a little bit of news to talk about, don't we? There was an article from Trek Movie saying that they've confirmed an April shooting date for season 2 of Star Trek Discovery. That is bonkers.
Bonkers that it's going to happen in a couple of months?
Yeah,
or that
that's quick. Yeah. I mean, if they're not getting it until 2019, I would have expected a few more months before they started recording or filming.
Well, it's going to be similar, actually, to what happened with season 1, because they started filming that in January, and then it dropped in, late September. So that was like 8 to 9 months. So it's about, the same, I think. And they've been working on, I think they started the planning like in November and some of the writing in early January. So they've been working on it for a little while. But yeah, it's like 8 or 9 months, I think, from when they start shooting to when it can actually air.
Well, that's crazy. I didn't realize it was that long. I don't know. It just, everything's such a blur from the first season now, like as for timelines and everything, because I don't know. We've been watching so much Discovery over the last little bit that I don't remember. Somebody posted, I think it was Alex Perry, posted on Twitter the other day. He's like, oh, it was a year ago that we got this leaked Klingon footage. And I'm like, that better not be what the Klingons look like, I said to him. Right. But, it was that one leak from behind the set that the guy ended up getting canned for.
Yeah.
So,
seems like a long time ago.
Yeah. Well, that was a year ago now. I don't know. Times are just, who knows anymore.
Well, I mean, it's like 8 or 9 months, but still, like if it's like the first season, they'll still be working on shooting into a little bit after the first episode's air. So yeah, it's a long process for these things.
So you've read the article. I haven't had a chance yet because the article just came out today. We're recording this on Monday, the 12th. So this is the day after the episode came out. I haven't had a chance to read the article yet, but Justin has. Justin, you want to give us some highlights from the article? No spoilers.
Yeah. Well, if you want no spoilers, then I probably can't say anything about the article.
Okay, this is the listener's spoiler warning then, I guess.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, one of the things that was interesting was, well, based on what happened in the episode, I think they had asked Kurtzman, who's one of the co-creators and co-producers, if we might see like a CG Shatner Kirk. So they were asking him, he was like, oh, I'm open to it, because I think
we won't
Shatner's
see Shatner
doing
Kirk
some stuff.
Because this is Pike era.
Well, but he's out there somewhere. I mean, people were just throwing it around. I think it's quite unlikely that we would see that, something like that, as like a younger Kirk, younger than we see in TOS. But anyway, it was just something that was being thrown around. I think it's interesting that's being thrown around. I think we necessarily need that, but that's one of the points in the article.
Well, they could do something like that. I mean, they've been doing that with, with CG actors and stuff with, Benjamin Button, they de-aged Brad Pitt, and they did the same thing in Tron Legacy with, what's his name? Jeff Bridges, is that right? Is that the guy? I don't know. The dude.
Could be. Yeah.
Maybe it's Jeff Goldblum. I don't know. They look the same.
Jeff Bridges. Well, I'm just kidding. You could be right.
I think it's Jeff Bridges. And the guy that played Grand Moff Tarkin in Rogue One, right? They didn't even de-age the guy. The guy's dead, right? They just put his face on somebody else's body or something.
It's possible. And I mean, people were also throwing around, based on what happens in this episode, if you could see like a CG Spock as like Leonard Nimoy's Spock. Mm-hmm. I think I don't need to see that, but it's possible. Yeah,
it'd be interesting to see if they were to do something like that, like a CG young, or if they just cast again. Yeah, it'll be interesting.
Well, there was another article where they were saying they were really leaning toward not like actually recasting that role, but which is fine. I think the other thing in the article is that they were confirming that that we'll see Tyler again in the second season. So
okay,
and that makes sense. I think his story will continue.
Yeah,
at different points, but yeah,
excellent. Right on. So watch for leaked footage of Cardassians, I guess. Leaked behind the scenes photos from your Cardassian extras. Who knows what's coming for season 2, right? So,
yeah, true.
Anyways, should we move on to the episode?
Sure. Let's have our very interesting discussion that I'm sure we'll have here.
Excellent. Right on. We are going to move into our discussion on Will You Take My Hand? So this was the season finale, and it's been building up. 14 episodes have built up to this. And before we go, the first question I have for you, I've got a few notes that I want to talk about here. The first question I have for you is, picture it. Starfleet. 2017. We were told there was going to be 13 episodes, and now we have 15.
Uh-huh.
When the season started, I had predicted that the first 2 episodes were meant originally as flashbacks, and then they were excised from the episodes and they created 2 episodes out of it. And now as I'm kind of looking at this, I'm almost wondering if they may have originally intended the first season to end on a cliffhanger when they got back from the mirror universe, and then they decided to wrap it up instead. What do you think? Where do you think the original 13 was? Or do you think that they just took the 15 and flushed it out? Because, we have it coming out next week, right? Amy and I have recorded an interview with Hanali Culpepper, and she directed Vaulting Ambition, which was the shortest episode. And I kind of thought, well, maybe they could have combined 2 episodes to be a 70, and they just decided to divide it up to make 14 episodes, and they did that somewhere else. But after talking with Hanali Culpepper, I don't think that's the case. So where do you think this 13 might have been? Do you think they just flushed out the stories?
See, there's something really interesting, actually, on Aftershock that they had talked about, because they asked, how did you construct this season? I think they were asking the showrunners, Aaron Harberts and Gretchen Berg, and they were like, we started from the end and engineered it from there. We knew that Burnham would get her redemption at the end. We knew the Enterprise would show up at the end, and everything would kind of flow into that. So I think that tells me that the first 2 episodes are the ones I think that were kind of fleshed out more and added. Because for these last 2 episodes, there was a lot of stuff still to, kind of digest and to really kind of wrap things up for the Klingon War. And I don't know if they, would have ended it on the cliffhanger with the Enterprise on episode 13. I don't know. But I think it was also, always their intention to, or from pretty early on, to go to the mirror universe and to have the Klingon War end by the end of the season. So I tend to think it's the first 2, but I could be completely wrong.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's tough to say. I mean, going back in hindsight, who knows? I don't know that they could have completely excised every flashback to make those 2 episodes, right? I don't think that's possible because it just flows together too well, right? Like it doesn't feel like cut up flashback scenes, but.
Well, I mean, or it could be that they meant those first two to be kind of flashbacks for what we know now is the third episode. And then they made a decision like, let's flesh those out into full episodes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it could be.
Maybe. I don't know.
Okay. Well,
but it's interesting to think about. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. Cause it's, we did get the announcement of 13 to 15, which is, great. We got 2 extra episodes, but I wonder how that came about. And I mean, if I ever get the chance to ask, that's one of the first questions I'm going to ask one of the creators of the show. Where'd the other 2 episodes come from? So, okay. So the first thing I want to talk about. So I had a lot of problems with this episode. There's stuff that I really liked in it, but I had a lot of problems with it. And one of the things that I had the biggest problem with is the Georgiou plotline. And I didn't really like how they were wrapping up the last episode, and I liked it even less when we started with this episode, because when Cornwall was on the bridge at the end of the last episode, she's like, okay, at 2100 hours, we're warping to Qo'noS and we're starting this mission. And here's your new captain, back from the dead, Philippa Georgiou. And it's like, okay, first of all, is anybody going to believe that? Right? When they've just come back from the mirror universe, they've seen duplicates, right? They know duplicates exist. Are they really going to believe that this is the original version of Philippa Georgiou? And then we start the episode. They haven't jumped to Qo'noS yet, so this is the same day. This is mere hours at most later. Mm-hmm. And Philippa Georgiou is like not trying to maintain a facade of any kind. Yep. Cornwall's gone, and she's just being mere Georgiou. And so to me, that doesn't work for me, the start of this.
Well, okay, so when I've thought about this, what makes the most sense to me is that it doesn't matter if anyone on the ship believes it. What matters is that she is there to accomplish the mission she's been given by Starfleet, which we find out more about in this episode. And that officially, for the record, this is the Georgiou that is the prime Georgiou, and they say that she's come back from the dead, for the record, because they can't put anything in the official record, really, of the mirror universe, because they're going to classify all of that information. So I think at the point that they get to toward the last episode, it doesn't matter whether anyone believes it. It just matters that for the record and for the future, that it has nothing to do with the mirror universe.
But then if it doesn't matter because they're going to classify it anyways, then why lie for the record? I mean, like they're already going to be classifying all this information about the mirror universe. What does it matter if they say that this is the mirror Georgiou? It doesn't matter. It's getting classified anyways.
Yeah, but it could be suspicious if you end up classifying records of like who's commanding this ship at this certain time, or I think there's some way in which they need to have some kind of cover story for it, or some kind of deniability that there's anything else that's going on. I mean, honestly, like I was going with it. It didn't bother me, and I can think of it as they're just doing it for the record. And it doesn't really matter if anyone believes it.
Yeah,
that's just my belief. It didn't really bother me much.
Okay, so then here we are, me sitting here saying nobody really is clearly going to believe this at all, except of course for the most intelligent person on the ship. Like, really, Tilly, who portrayed the mirror version of herself, actually believes that this random person came back from the dead? I did not like how they handled Tilly in this episode with the first second she walked onto the screen. Her character has changed for me to be pure comedic effect in this episode. And they used her so many times that way, where it's just comedy. And I was frustrated with it.
Yeah, I guess I could see that. I mean, again, like that scene, and I mean, she is someone who, she's been to the mirror universe, but she wasn't on the Shenzhou, might not know anything that happened, and wants to believe this. But yeah, I mean, I could see that. I actually didn't have too much of a problem with her character in this episode, because we've seen so much of what she can do, and I know we'll see more of her potential and the things that she can do, and she gets promoted toward the end of the episode and all of that. And I don't know. I mean, it it didn't bother me in this particular episode what she was doing there.
Yeah. I don't know.
That's just me.
It
didn't like stop me from enjoying the episode.
Yeah, I don't know. It took me right out of it, like as soon as she walked in, because I'm like, nobody's going to believe this. Oh, except for the first person that we see, right? And I don't.
Well, there was a hint that someone else believed it in the last episode, which was
Detmer. She gave this big,
Detmer,
like,
she
happy
gave like
smile.
this smile, like, which I think is probably stretching belief a little more because she was actually on the Shenzhou, but. Yeah.
But, and then, I don't know. So then the other part with this is, again, I love Saru. He's my favorite character. But this whole, threat ganglia thing, like, I mean, he's not sensing anything off of Mirror Georgiou in front of him. Like, she has in her mind the plan of how she is going to be screwing this mission over. And Saru is just not sensing this at all in front of her again. Like this threat ganglia thing, it's just like it's there when they need it to be. And it doesn't work otherwise.
Maybe it's only attuned to the quantum signature of his own universe.
I don't know. But again, here we are. I mean, and that's fine that you say that, but it's just here we are. How many things have we had to try and justify after the story is out? How do we make these plot points that don't work in our heads? You know, and there's so many of them, and it's built up to this final episode, and I'm very, very frustrated because like everybody else, like I want to love this show so badly, and there's so much great stuff in it that I'm frustrated with these plot points that just don't seem to work.
Well, let me ask you this question. So is it that we are like looking at and dissecting these things in real time more than we ever have before?
I don't know.
Or are there really more problems with it? Because there's lots of stuff in lots of Star Trek episodes that you can point to that you might have to justify that seems silly, that seems like it's not believable, but you kind of set that aside for the message of the episode or for your own enjoyment of the episode. So is there more of that going on in Discovery, or is it just that we're noticing it more and highlighting it more, and it's bothering us because we feel it should, like, it's taken a while to get here and it should have, you know, be more perfect, you know?
I just completed the Season 3 rewatch retrospective for my podcast Warp 5 here on the network for Season 3 of Enterprise. And I know that I point out stuff while I'm watching that episode, and I clearly point it out, and I'm looking at it with a critical eye. But even in that season, like the whole season, I don't think I'm finding as much plot holes as I am with this. And they're like little plot points that just need a little bit of fine tuning. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, and I'm
no. I mean, well, let's be clear. You're not wrong. This is how you feel about it, and that's valid, right? I just feel quite different about it because for me, I feel like in order to love what Star Trek does and what it means to me and the positive vision of it, there are a lot of things that I've had to forgive in different shows and different seasons. And I don't think it's more of that in my perspective, at least, it's more of that in Discovery. So I'm enjoying it quite a bit. And I can, you know, overlook or find explanations for things because I really appreciate, you know, all of the performances and the care that's being taken. I mean, is it going to be perfect? No, because no show is. But I think what you're saying is you feel like there's more of that than you've seen elsewhere and it bothers you. And for me personally, I don't think it's any more than I've seen anywhere else in Star Trek.
Mm-hmm. Like, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what it is, and I don't know how I feel.
You're struggling with it.
I am struggling with this. You know, I messaged Amy. I was talking with Amy today. I was depressed today. I was depressed after watching this finale. I watched it 3 times today. Okay. And I'm depressed because it's just, I've got so much frustrations with the episode, and like, we're going to talk about some of them here, but I don't know. Like, I hope I can gain more on rewatches. Maybe it's because I'm watching it too many times, and maybe I got to start not watching it quite so much in rapid succession to prepare for the podcast. Because, I mean, I really do want the reason why I do it is because I want to be as prepared as I can for this podcast. So I've made the decision that I watch it at least 3 times prior to recording, and then I watch it one more time after. to prepare for next week. And maybe that's just too much and too rapid. And I'm fully cognizant that could be the reason.
Well, I mean, I've usually watch it like on Sunday night because I can in the US, but, and then I'll watch it, on Monday, especially if I'm going to do a podcast like this one about it. And most of the time, I actually like the episode more on the rewatch the next day than I did the previous day. And oftentimes I don't watch it, have time to watch it 3 or 4 times, but I find myself often like enjoying it more on a rewatch because the first time that I see it, there's a lot of stuff that I'm taking in and comparing it. And then on the second watch, I can just kind of relax and take it all in. Mm-hmm. But
okay,
wow, we're having like such different experiences.
We are. Okay, so I'm going to tell you what I loved in this episode. Okay, because there was some great stuff. I loved the stuff on Qo'noS. I loved the Michael and Tyler interaction in this episode. Those were 2 incredibly strong parts of this episode that were slower. They were character developing points. They were world building, and they weren't about really plot points. There's things that I had issues with it. But I mean, for example, like the Tyler and Burnham stuff, when he came back from the game and watching him play the game was wonderful. And the tattoo parlor was wonderful.
You know what it felt like, and I love those scenes as well. It was really strong. What it felt like was, a really good Star Trek novel that's immersing you in a certain planet or civilization, and you're seeing all of these things unfold and what it reveals about the characters, and it's taking the time to do that. That's what it felt like to me. And yeah, those parts were great, and I love that they took the time to do that and to have Burnham and Tyler interact that way and to see all of this stuff on Qo'noS that we hadn't seen before. Yeah,
because the stuff at the end of the last episode when Burnham and Tyler interact, I was angry and frustrated with Tyler's reaction. And this was more natural to me,
I think his yeah, I mean, like for the last episode, I was pretty upset with Tyler with the way that he was acting and trying to kind of blame Burnham. But what it feels like is that, he's trying to find out what is going on, who he really is, right? And he's lashing out in that past episode, but now he's had time to really, a little bit of time at least. I mean, sometimes that happens, right? You'll say something and you'll think about it, and then the next day you'll learn from it and take a different tack, which it felt like he was doing here. And that stuff was great, and it was a great goodbye. And like I like also that, you initially see him in this episode, like tying a rope, I guess, which is supposed to be from, the real Ash Tyler's childhood. And then in the end, he gives that to Burnham as like a memento. I mean, that stuff's great. I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that too. I mean, I'm glad Tyler's not going to be around as a main character. I mean, I'm guessing based on what I've seen, he walks away. If he comes back and he shows up, that's fine. I'm expecting to see him again. What it seems like. Right. But I'm hoping he's not a main character because to me, and I know that this has been an endless debate online in that, he's Tyler and he's not guilty and because Voq did all this stuff. And to me, my point of view is he is Voq with Tyler over top of him. He's a Klingon agent. And at the end of this episode, they kept him around. I'm like, okay, which episode in season 2 is the episode going to be where Voq's personality comes out and starts killing everybody again? Because they're going to have that episode if they keep him around.
Mm-hmm. You know what it feels like, though? It's almost like at this point, Tyler is like a Trill, and like the Tyler is kind of like this host, and then Voq is like the symbiont with like the memories and different personality and things like that. So it's like this melding that's happened, although it's not the real Tyler, but it's kind of like he's still both, right?
Mm-hmm. Right, exactly. He is, and they're both still there. And to me, it's more that Voq is the host and the symbiont is Tyler because of how he got in there. It's an imprinted personality, right? But,
okay.
But I see what you're saying there. And I don't know, like that was wonderful stuff between Tyler and Burnham and just some of the world building that we saw on Qo'noS. Like it was really neat and it was really well done. And I really loved that part of the episode. And Yeah, it was great. And that's the stuff that I want in this show. I don't know. I don't know. But that's the really good stuff. We got some really cool Easter eggs that were hidden throughout Qo'noS as well. You know, we got the SETI eels that were sitting on that plate. You know, we have the Orions. The Nausicaan guns were referenced. And did you catch the trill?
I did on the rewatch, yeah.
Yeah, it's right there,
Awesome.
just this brief flash. You just see the side of a face and you can see the
like
spots.
in the tattoo parlor, right?
Yeah. I don't think it was in the tattoo parlor. I think it was...
I think there was one there, and then there was one elsewhere as well.
The one that I saw was in the bar when they went to the stripper bar or whatever it was.
I might have missed that, but there was definitely one like getting a tattoo like in one of the shots.
Yeah.
Cool.
But okay, so we have so we have this plot point. Okay, I must have missed something. What the heck was the original plan that they thought they were doing? What was this supposed to do? Just map the volcanoes?
When you say the original plan, I mean the plan that they're telling the people, I guess, that need to know on the Discovery is that there would be like some drone that would come up through the, I guess, ancient volcano or tunnelers or something like that in order to map out across the planet strategic places to attack. But of course, the real plan was to destroy the planet.
Right. Okay. So that's what I thought, but I'm like, that's not what I'm getting out of this now. I understand
they talked about it more in the last episode, I think.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Because that's ringing a bell now that that was the plan in the last episode. Yes. Okay. So here we go. Tilly goes off, meets Clint Howard. Like, honestly, that completely threw me out of the episode. I'm like,
did it?
Yes. You can't throw Clint Howard in something without going, hey, it's the guy that played the kid in Corbomite Maneuver. Like,
I liked it.
Completely takes me out of it. I mean, I know he was in a D Space Nine episode as well, but
and Enterprise.
And Enterprise is a Ferengi, but it's like, I don't know. Like, it completely took me out of it, totally.
Okay.
But here we are with, again, humor for Tilly. Oh, and I've seen it online. Oh, ha, 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 I love Tilly getting high. That was so great. And it's like, I don't know. I don't think it was that great. It's just comedic effect. It's just slapstick.
I think you're right that what she did was a bit more comedic effect, except when she was threatening the Orion trader. But yeah, I guess that's true. I mean, I don't know. I feel like there's so much that we've seen Tilly do. I mean, like, in a way, the question that I have is like, why would Georgiou choose her to even be on this mission? Like, what was she going to contribute by like holding this case? That didn't quite make sense to me.
See, and what I got out of that was her nostalgia for having worked with her in the past, which more Easter eggs, subjugating the Beta Zeds and killing off the people of Mintaka 3.
Mintaka 3, I just saw that episode recently.
Right? So her nostalgia for working with Killy in the other universe is why she brought her along and what she can do. Yeah. But that's I
mean, probably it'll bother me more if it just continues that she's more comedic relief than not. But just in this episode, it didn't bother me, and I actually didn't notice that that's what was happening because I was focused on other things.
Yeah. Okay, so another awesome thing that I thought was absolutely fantastic, aside from the fact that they are just all of a sudden okay with jumping again, the jump into Qo'noS was frickin' amazing.
In the cave, yeah.
Oh my goodness, that looked so awesome. I felt the weight of that ship in that shot. Mm-hmm. Okay, that was some beautiful special effects, and I thought it was wonderful. So
it really was, and you could feel it like struggling to gain
against the gravity. Altitude. That was amazing, right?
Yeah.
I don't. So like that whole plot line is cool. That this is what they were going to do, right? And I don't have a problem with. I don't have a problem with Starfleet bringing Georgiou into it with this other plan that clearly everybody knew about. Right? Clearly Cornwell knew about it, and clearly Sarek knew about it in the last episode.
Right.
I don't have a problem with that. I understand that it's not very Starfleet-like, but they're in a desperate situation and they don't know what to do. So they're grasping at straws. It's not the right thing to do, but I can understand that they did it.
Yeah, and I think there are maybe some parallels with, what the kinds of things that you might see Archer do in like season 3 of Enterprise. Like, it's a desperate situation, and your whole civilization is at risk. So I can understand them going there in that situation. Yeah.
But the final thing, okay, so let's talk about L'Rell. How did this work for you?
You know, it actually worked fine for me, and let me tell you why. One of the things that I like seeing the most in Star Trek is that there's some kind of nonviolent resolution to a conflict. And that it doesn't, because actually what I expected from this episode was that, you know, they would find some way to map things and there would just be like a huge battle and they'd, you know, attack Qo'noS and kind of beat them into submission in order to end the war. And I'm glad that didn't happen because like some of the things that I really love about Star Trek is actually kind of coming to an understanding of other cultures. And that's kind of where I guess Vogue Tyler kind of comes in as the bridge between the two cultures and with what L'Rell has seen of you know, humans and Starfleet, and just finding a way to come to this resolution. Now, does it strictly make sense that she can go there and say, I'm going to destroy the planet? I mean, it's not necessarily the best, you know, bluff because she would destroy herself as well. But I do like that they're finding a way to bring this to a resolution without a whole lot of bloodshed, because, you know, I think we've seen enough of that in this season of the show. And I don't know. So it works for me, and I love that L'Rell is going to be the leader. Now, it doesn't mean that this is the end of it, right? I'm sure that there'll be some resistance and some things that kind of spill over into season 2 that we'll see. But I mean, overall, it actually worked pretty well for me, even on a rewatch.
See, to me, I'm like, again, this ending was like, it felt forced to me because she's like, look, I'm here and we all need to work together. And you know what? I'm going to be the leader. And everybody starts laughing at her and she holds up this thing, right? We know what it is, but nobody else knows what this thing is. But as soon as she holds it up, everybody just stops like it's a serious thing. They don't know what it is.
Surely she's going to explain it to them.
Right? So,
but, yeah.
But she doesn't explain it to them.
Not from what we see, but
right.
I guess they figure it wasn't necessary to put, but I'm surely she explains what it means, right?
But then, so here she is. I'm going to lead you or I'll kill you all.
Kind of sounds like a Georgiou thing to do.
So this is the solution that they've got now. We won't kill you all, but we'll give you the ability to kill all yourselves if you don't figure this out.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, like, thinking about it as a resolution, it has its issues, but in acknowledging that, it works for me, and I like that the resolution that it comes to. What can I say? But that happens to me sometimes for Star Trek episodes. There are certain things that, like, might that happen in the real world? Maybe not. But I know I saw comments from people saying that it seems rushed, the ending of the war, but it is ended by this one action, at least, the active part of the war, not the Cold War going forward, let's say. But I don't know. All I can say is it doesn't necessarily make logical sense, but it totally worked for me. And sometimes that happens in Star Trek for me. Okay. I don't know what it is. I don't even know, because I don't like it. It's tough when we get to this point, because it's like, you're like, it works for me. And I see the weakness and it works for me. And I'm like, I see the weakness and it doesn't work for me. And I don't know how to communicate around that, because without getting, like, we can't just sit here and point out, but it works, but it doesn't work, but it works, but it doesn't work. Like, we can't do that. It's just it's a personal opinion of feeling, right? Like, when you were watching it, you were like, I don't like this. And when I was watching it, I was like, I like this. I like where they're going with this. And I like the resolution that it, like, in a certain way, I like the end point that they got to with that. And the means for it didn't quite matter as much. And again, it doesn't necessarily make logical sense, but I watched it and I rewatched it and I enjoyed it both times. Mm-hmm. It didn't, like, bother me at a fundamental level. Okay. Okay.
then the only other thing I got to point out, we're kind of all over the place, and I don't really have a functioning guideline on this episode here. I'm just going from like point to point that I wrote down. And the other one that I wrote down is Georgiou and Burnham's final confrontation in the cave. Where, what happened there? Oh, you better watch out or Starfleet's going to get you. But you don't think I'm scared of Starfleet? No, I don't. You're not really scared of Starfleet. I know that. But you know what you're going to have to do? You're going to have to kill me, and you're going to have to watch me die again, which she never did. She never watched her die before. And in 2 episodes ago, she was ready to kill her anyways. And it's like, well, we're supposed to think that Georgiou doesn't want to kill her. But she was ready to kill her 2 episodes ago.
She was ready to kill her 2 episodes ago when she was in the mirror universe, and she was the emperor who had to enforce her rule. Now she's in the prime universe. She doesn't have that kind of power, and like, what is she going to do, or what benefit would it be to her in order to kill Burnham at this point?
Well, I know, I understand. Like, it doesn't benefit anything. It doesn't benefit to kill her. Like, because at the end of the game, she's got her freedom. Like,
yeah,
I don't know. Like it's this forced conflict to be put onto us as like this one last, holy smokes, what's really going to happen here? And but Burnham's like, you're going to have to watch me die again. Well, Georgiou's never watched Burnham die.
Do we know what happened in the mirror, Burnham?
Yes, because Lorca killed her in the mirror universe, and she's presumed dead.
Well, it was presumed that he murdered her, but I don't think we got confirmation.
Presumed dead means nobody saw her die, including the Emperor.
Yeah, I don't know if they had completely addressed that because, you know, Lorca was saying it seems like you're presumed dead, but, you know, it's possible Georgiou could have. I mean, Georgiou had Mirror Burnham's badge. Where did she get that from?
Where did the telescope come from? Like, these awesome parallels that we're supposed to see in these writing that I think are just frustrating. I don't know, like, I just growl at this. But even if so fine, if Georgiou saw her die, so let's just pretend for a second that Georgiou saw her die, then why did she think that this was Burnham in front of her when she showed up in the mirror universe? So clearly she didn't see her die. You know, it's sloppy writing. It's sloppy.
You know, you're bringing up some things I haven't had a chance to think about, but here's what I should say. I don't think the writing is sloppy or that it's any worse than what we've seen in a lot of other Star Trek series, because there's lots of stuff that you could pick apart or find issues with or say, there are problems with this writing. Just my opinion, I don't think that the writing is sloppy. I think overall it's excellent, and there are some holes and some things that they probably should have spent some more time on, but I don't agree with the characterization that overall it's you know, sloppy or there's tons of problems with it that can't be fixed.
I'm saying it's sloppy. The guy that loves the alternative factor is saying this, right?
That's your own problem for loving the alternative factor, Ben.
So, I don't know. But it's just, okay, so we've got this final climax, and then finally she's just like, whatever, fine, here's your weapon, and I'm gone. And it's like, I don't know, it was very anticlimactic, and...
It was, I don't know, again, it didn't bother me, and it was fine, because, like, you know, in the end, what has Georgiou actually done that the Federation could keep her for? Nothing but follow their own orders. So there's nothing they can really do to keep her, right?
Yeah. So it was all rather anticlimactic. Like, I don't know. So,
but I'm glad that they didn't do something like, you know, force Burnham to kill Georgiou or something like that, because I don't know. One of the things I really liked about this episode is we didn't get major characters dying. We didn't get, you know, a big shooting war. We didn't get, you know, I don't know if we even saw anybody die in the episode. So I think there's something to be said for an episode like that doesn't force having people die all the time, or having at the end of a season a character die. I think that can be, you know, unnatural to see that, and I'm glad they didn't go there, and they didn't have like some climactic thing where she has to live with killing, Emperor Georgiou as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, it may have seemed anticlimactic, but I prefer the choice that they made.
A lot of people online predicted that she was going to have to kill Georgiou as well, right? Which, I predict.
I'm glad they didn't.
Pardon me?
I'm glad they didn't.
Yeah, I'm glad they didn't too. I just predict. I'm waiting for the episode where we go up and we think it's Georgiou who's controlling the Borg, and she says, "No, the Sons of Soong have joined together, and together we'll destroy the Federation." Like that's how she's going to show up at some cliffhanger, right? Season finale cliffhanger. We're going to see her again, and when you're least expecting her, and it's is that Data? No, it's Lore. So anyways, that's my prediction for how she's coming back.
All right.
So, okay, before we get onto the finale, anything else on the plot line?
I did want to talk a little bit because
Please.
Actually one of the things that I loved the most about this episode was Burnham's speech, which I think watching the first time I didn't realize that that's where it started toward the beginning after the teaser and it goes toward the end. And I mean, one of the things that I love about this episode was it was about like upholding Starfleet principles and, defeating your fear. And I just love that thread that they had through the episode of Burnham's speech. And, when it got toward the end in those last couple of minutes, like with what she was saying and her kind of redemption with Sarek giving her the commander badge and Tilly being promoted and Stamets, holding Culber's medal. It made me cry. I thought it was a beautiful thing that they did in that last scene. And they had that kind of threaded through with Burnham telling the story about the soldier and the general. That part worked for me really well. And was one of the reasons I love the episode.
Mm-hmm. I watched the episode 3 times and I didn't catch, I caught the connection of the story, but I didn't connect that that was part of her speech. Mm-hmm. Right? Yeah. I knew that she was telling a story and I knew that she was coming back to it at the end, but I didn't connect that it was all one
that
conversation.
It was all part of the same thing.
Because it's 45 minutes apart. Okay, sure. So that's fine. But okay, I'll have to watch that again next time then and see because I didn't, okay. Yes. So I was thinking a lot during that scene about the finale of These Are the Voyages. So that's what I was thinking a lot of during that scene. It looked very reminiscent to me of Archer's speech and, Archer at the very end being an admiral, and talking to the United Federation of Planets. That's what I saw a lot in that scene. That's what it made me think of. So.
I could see that. I actually didn't think about that the 2 times that I watched it, but I can definitely see that.
Yeah. And okay, so our first prediction is who's the captain? Who are they going to get? And poor Saru. Okay, for those that have read the book, even more poor Saru.
Yeah, but one thing we don't know is if for some reason Saru might be transferred to be the captain of a different ship.
I don't think so because I think Doug Jones is going to be around for a while.
I would think so too, but there must be like some really important or vital reason why they're having someone else as a captain. Who's the captain that they're going to pick up on Vulcan? There's been lots of speculation.
Tell me, what do you think? Because I got no idea. I don't know who would be there.
Well, my first reaction was like, I don't know. And then other people were throwing around that it would be T'Pol, and I was like, that would be cool, but I think it's very unlikely.
Yeah.
My only prediction is that it's somebody we haven't seen before and they're going to introduce a new character to the show.
Why don't they promote Saru?
I don't know. I think we are going to find that out. I think they purposely didn't say anything about that. Well, maybe they didn't know at the time they were writing it, but there's some reason why they're planning that there's going to be a different captain. That definitely surprised me. I was like, why wouldn't it be Saru as the captain? I don't know. I mean, we're going to have to wait for an explanation on that. Who it is, I have no idea. Like, who's on Vulcan at this point?
Because this is 10 years, so Spock's on the Enterprise.
Should be on the Enterprise.
Right? Yeah. So we don't really know much of what's going on at this time in Federation history. We don't really know that much. So
that's true. I mean, it could be a non-Vulcan that's stationed on Vulcan or living there or something. But I'm just like racking my brain, like, who could that be? I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see who that shows up to be. And then we get the final shot. Spoilers, the USS Enterprise pops into gear, and I don't know why they didn't just have a message, like why they needed to like not have a voice or something like that. I mean, when I think about, now maybe I'm wrong, it's been a long time since I've seen it, but I think about the season 2 finale of The Walking Dead, and that's when a main character going forward was introduced, of Michonne. And we see Michonne at the end of the final shot, just for one shot of the season 2 finale of Walking Dead. And so they've cast her, right? And same with the season finale of season 6. We see Negan. So they cast these people ahead of time and they show them at the final episode. And it's like, well, if they're planning on using these people, they could have casted them by now and had like not necessarily a screenshot or an image. It would have been cool to get a visual of the bridge of the Enterprise and seeing Pike, or even heard a voice.
At the time they were finishing the episode, I don't think, and it could be still at this point, they haven't cast anybody for that.
Right. But I'm just saying it could have been. I mean, like that's 2 seasons of Walking Dead where they had cast what the character they're going to be. So either it's the Enterprise is going to be that irrelevant in the next season, right? Or I don't know. Like, how big a role do you think the Enterprise is going to be playing? Like, this is all speculation at this point, right?
Yeah, it's speculation, but I think it'll be part of some kind of arc, 2, 3, 4 episods.
Mm-hmm. Now,
or not.
Yeah, who knows? Now, I've seen a lot of people online. I haven't seen as much. I haven't had an opportunity to be on social media a lot today. Have you seen a lot? Like, gauge the reaction. Are people liking this or not liking this?
I think, yeah, and it's hard to, I mean, I have seen some of the reaction. It's a little hard to gauge it without seeing more, but I think there are a lot of people that are liking it and some that aren't. I mean, I think that, for me, it's not a big deal, when they update ships. I think a lot of the reaction from people has been, okay, they updated it to fit into, this kind of visual universe they're building in Discovery, but looks good. And, they could have, gone further away from what the original Enterprise looks like. So I think overall, there's a lot of people that are loving it, a lot that are like, okay, that's fine. And some that don't like it, but it seemed overall fairly positive, I think.
Yeah. I think the ship looks beautiful. I think it does. Yeah, it's absolutely beautiful. And, I guess more what I was asking, I didn't make it clear, is that if we get the Enterprise and crew in the next season, what do you think people are thinking? Do we want Discovery to stand on its own, or do we want to see the crew of the Enterprise? What do you want?
I definitely want to see at least some of the crew. Because I think if they just show a ship and there's just like some communication and they fly off and do stuff, that's going to be disappointing.
Yeah.
I think at the very least, I'd like to see Pike. I'd like to see number 1. Interestingly, I don't want to see Spock because I don't know, there's just something about that if they were to like recast for that or do some CGI Nimoy or something, it would bother me, I think. Although who knows, but like, I think we'll see at least some of the crew and at least some of the interior. Although I think the writers haven't decided yet.
Yeah. Because
they were doing some interviews and they're like, well, if we build some sets for the interior, like they're still thinking about it. So,
yeah.
But I would love to see at least, because I think all we need to do is see at least a few of the crew, at least one that might be familiar, like Pike or number 1, and maybe a little bit of the interior. So, but who knows? But I'd like to see some. It can't just be like the ship and they just have like voice communication or something.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I would love to see a recasted Spock, a recasted Pike. I would love to see that. Even a CG make him look like a young Nimoy, I'm okay with that. Because one thing that we've always had frustrations with is what's happening now, and what's common with franchises is this intertwining cinematic universe. And we have the opportunity to do something like that. And I don't want it to be like every week we've got it there, but it'll be nice to have it come in a couple of times a season and see these characters because they are there. They are out there doing stuff, and we know this. How many people have said, why didn't they just do a Dominion War story arc for Insurrection? Why did they do this Fountain of Youth planet? Oh, because, we don't want to confuse people because fans are stupid or something, I guess, right? That's why they didn't do that. Well, no, that would have been fantastic and amazing and world building if they had a Dominion War movie. That would have made sense. Yeah. So it makes sense to have this intertwining. The visual aspects of this show are not the things that bother me. I like the visual aspects. I love the look of the Enterprise. I would love to see either recasted or even a young CG because it looks so good. I just watched Tron Legacy again the other day, and I love Tron Legacy a lot. And while the special effects aren't that great for Jeff Bridges or whatever his name is. I'm so bad with actors' names for everybody's screaming at me right now. But it looks good. And I see what they did in Rogue One, which looks amazing with Tarkin. Like, I almost can't even tell with the stuff with Tarkin in Rogue One. And that's one of the things that I love about that movie is bringing this character that we know about. So that's what I see. Yeah. That's the positive storytelling opportunity that I see could come our way over the next few seasons.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely agree. And I think it's a good sign that they're, putting the Enterprise there. That actually surprised me that they actually showed it because I thought it would just be like, they'd show the registry number, just have like a little communication like, oh, it's Captain Pike, and then it ends. But that they actually showed the ship takes it to another level, right? That they have to do something to really further intertwine it in what we know from the original series. And I love that. And I think there's a lot of potential in that. And there's also a lot of potential in what they've said for the next season, which is it'll be more about exploration, which I like as well. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I know you've had frustrations, over this season. But, I think that, oftentimes for different Star Trek series, it can get stronger and stronger over time. So maybe they'll address some of those things that are bothering you. But there have been some, first seasons in Star Trek that have been a little tough.
Right. And I'm doing my DS9 rewatch right now. And personally, I think Deep Space Nine Season 1 is better than Discovery Season 1. I think TOS Season 1 is better than Discovery Season 1. Like, those are my personal POVs, right? I disagree with that, although I do think that there's a lot of strength in the first season of DS9.
Yeah. But I don't think this is like, the best season of Star Trek ever, but for me personally, I've enjoyed it more consistently through all of the episodes than any other first season of Star Trek. So for me, it's my favorite first season of Star Trek. Sure, even if there are issues, it's been more consistent for me.
Yeah. And there is a lot of great stuff. And I've had these frustrations throughout, and they've just kind of built up till now. Like, I've really been trying to maintain a positive outlook of this show. I've questioned things as they've come along, but this just kind of just came to a head for me with this episode. And I mean, I'm not going to stop watching the show. I mean, I want to see more. I'm excited to see where it's going to go. Okay. I'm enjoying it. It's good. Okay. I'll put it out there. I mean, I think Discovery is my least favorite Star Trek series, right? Like, really? But it's still got some really good stuff in it. Okay. And I'm looking forward to seeing what's coming down the road, right? What's going to happen in season 2? Okay, we got another storyline that's going to happen. I'm looking forward to another season-long arc and seeing what they're going to do and creativity that can happen with. So
it would be interesting if, like a couple months down the line, you just go back and rewatch the 15 episodes and see what you think.
I will do that. Yeah. And I'll get you back on the show to talk about it.
Yeah, because, man, we've been pretty opposite.
Yeah, and
your least favorite Star Trek series. I mean, it's probably it's hard with just a first season to make that determination, but it's probably my third favorite at this point, something like that.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, you're getting the opposing parts of the reaction to this episode and some of Discovery, and that's great, right?
Right. hopefully the listeners have enjoyed the conversation, and hopefully when I go upstairs, my tires aren't slashed, in the vehicle, not that, anyways.
Oh, I'll recall them. Don't go by Brandon's house.
Anywho, but we're done. We're going to have to wait a darn year to get even more. It's going to be a year. And
hopefully a bit less.
But
at least 10 or 11 months, I think.
It's not, they're saying 2019, which is 9.5, what is February was that? 10.5 months. So even if it airs in January, that's 10 months away or 11 months away or whatever it is. I can't count right now. It's late. But Justin, any other comments you want to make on the finale before we go?
Well, I mean, just to reiterate, I mean, I know there are some issues with the episode, and like what's interesting is I don't think it's the best episode of the season, but it's quite possible because of the message that it's giving and how much it moved me, especially in the later part, that it may be actually my favorite episode of the season. But I think there are better episodes of the show, but I think that, by ending it with showing the Enterprise, that makes me really anticipate what's going to happen the next season and be really excited for it.
Excellent. Right on. Where can people find you online, my friend?
Well, you can find me elsewhere on the network, co-hosting Earl Grey. That's our dedicated Next Generation show with Amy Nelson and Richard Marquez. We have a great time talking about the Next Generation every week. And you can also find me on Twitter. I'm at TrekFan4747, where I tweet about nothing but Star Trek. I do tweet quite a bit about Discovery and also currently on my Season 4 rewatch of The Next Generation. And you can also find me hanging around the Babel Conference on Facebook.
Well, talking about Will You Take My Hand is not the only thing we've been discussing on the network this week, so please take a listen to this clip and see what else you may have missed elsewhere on Trek FM.
Previously on Trek.fm, Literary Treks.
But let's start with that first one, that Siege in Super Space. So, oh boy. Super Space, I don't know, is this better than Subspace? Is it...
Well, I think it is. The thing I really love about this issue is we haven't had many stories at all about super space.
The Edge, a Star Trek Discovery podcast.
Right. So, okay, they're under orders. They're not supposed to talk about it, and that's how you maintain the continuity that Kirk and Spock are surprised that there's a mirror universe. I mean, that works. That makes sense. But these people were there. They know that there's doppelgangers there because they know that because Cadet Tilly became Captain Killy, right? They know this.
To the journey!
There was a lot of face melting in this episode. You're right.
Everyone's melting. What a world! What a world! It was, and everybody was slimy looking. Why were they so sweaty? Why?
7 of 9 had this full-on Borg Queen look about her.
She did, and who else was really sweaty looking besides 7?
Neelix was really sweaty looking. I thought
he was.
And he had kind of a silver tone. He had the silver blood coming through.
He was distinguished melting Neelix.
Yes. Yeah, he got a buff and polish.
The 602 Club.
No, I mean, it was really all we had was like animated shows. Like you had like the animated Batman series, the animated Superman series, and as far as the big screen went, it was not so great. I mean, you had Blade. Blade was... Some people cite Blade as kind of the precursor for the superhero genre picking back up, but it was very much kind of a genre film. I know technically it is a comic book film. I don't know if I'd count it in the realm of like big budget superhero movies.
And that's what else is happening on Trek.fm.
So check out all these shows and join in the conversation about your favorite corner of the Star Trek universe and beyond. You'll find us wherever you get your podcasts. If you're an Apple user, please be sure to hit the subscribe button in Apple Podcasts on iPhone, iPad, or Apple TV, or the desktop iTunes app to get the latest episodes as soon as they are published. And please leave us a star rating and a written review. If you're not an Apple user, we've got you covered as well. You can find our shows on Google Play Music, Stitcher, TuneIn, Spreaker, SoundCloud, Windows Phone, in most third-party apps, and you can stream and download the MP3 file from our website or grab the RSS link as well. We'd love to hear your thoughts on today's show, and there are many ways for you to do that. The best place to join in the larger conversation is the Babel Conference, our listeners group on Facebook. Just type Babel, that's Babel, into the search field on Facebook, and it should come right up. If you'd like to send us email, you can use the form on our website at trek.fm/contact, choose to send to a show, and select the Edge. That will come right to us. You can also find the network on Twitter at TrekFM and on Facebook at facebook.com/TrekFM. And if you want to find me elsewhere, you can find me here on the network with Warp 5, which is our Star Trek Enterprise podcast with my co-hosts Brandy and Patrick. You can find me over on the Fandom Podcast Network with a show called Good Evening, an Alfred Hitchcock podcast that I host with my friends Chris and Tom. And you can find me poking up every once in a while in the Babel Conference. You can find me on Twitter at Brandon-Shea. I don't know if I said that or not. Anyways, if I did, there it is again. If you'd like to help us keep all of our shows coming to you each week, you can become a patron of the network on Patreon. Visit patreon.com/TrekFM. That's patreon.com/TrekFM to get all the details. Perks include early access to episodes, exclusive content, producer credits, and more, available through our special patrons website, Patron Zone. It requires a great deal of money to produce, host, and distribute these shows each month. We really appreciate any support you can give us, and we hope you'll join the team. Again, you'll find all the details at patreon.com/TrekFM. Well, that's all we've got for you right now. We will be continuing to produce the show. The plan right now is to hit you guys up every other week. Next week, however, we do have a special interview with next week we do have an interview with Hannah Lee Culpepper, who's the director of Vaulting Ambition. Amy and I recorded that earlier tonight, so be sure to tune in for that. It's a really great interview. And then I think the week after that, we're going to be doing an episode recapping the back half of the season, and then we're going to proceed to every other week. Well, at this time, I'd like to thank the wonderful associate producers for The Edge. We've got Norman C. Lau, Tony Robinson, Thomas Puleo, Lisa Slack, Shoaib Mirza, Richard Rutledge, James Muldrow, and Cornelia Reutner. Thank you so much for supporting Trek FM and specifically The Edge. Well, that's all we've got for you this week, so be sure to tune in next time to find out what we've been doing on the edge of Federation space.